Hello, welcome to this lecture. So in this lecture, we will design isolated footing, which comes under the category of shallow foundation. And this is the content that we are going to discuss in this lecture. So now talking about the isolated footing. Well, generally for the ordinary building structures, which are generally uh, resting on a firm soil, generally what we do is we provide separate footing for each column in the building. So this separate footing for each column that we generally provide, it is called the isolated footing. And it looks like this. So here in this is the column and it is resting on this plate, which is actually called the footing. And this footing is resting on the soil. And soil generally offer the pressure. I mean, this is basically the soil reaction against the vertically downward load. And this footing can be square in the plan, it can be rectangular in the plan depending on the cross-sectional dimensions of the column. So if a column is square in shape, then the footing will be square in the shape as well. And if the column is rectangular in the cross section, then footing will be rectangular with the same proportion as the column has. And this h is basically the depth of this foundation. So sometimes we express this with d or small d. Small d is basically the effective depth. So this effective depth is very important, and it is generally designed by considering various criteria under this footing may fail. So we consider all those failure criteria, and based on those failure criteria, we calculate the this depth. And this df is the depth of foundation from the ground level. So as I said, this isolated footing can be square or rectangular in the shape, but other shapes can also be there depending on the special conditions. For example, if we have a circular column, so sometimes for the circular column, we can have circular footing, but generally for circular column also, we have square footing because it is easy to construct, easy to handle in the site condition. And this isolated footing can be stepped footing, it can be sloped footing, or it can be uniformly thickness footing. So in the figure you see, this is the footing with the uniform thickness. And if we want to see the stepped and sloped, so there is also, I have provided the photo. So this is the simplest footing, which is isolated footing. And in this you can see the slab thickness is uniform. Similarly, sometimes what we do is we provide a pedestal, and we want to disperse this load in the steps. So this is known as stepped footing, and that is also comes under the category of isolated footing. And sometimes for economical purpose, we design sloped footing as well. So this sloped footing is depending on the bending moment variation. So based on that, we can have this sloped footing also. But in our course, we will be mainly focused on this uniformly thickness footing. We will design this footing with uniform thickness. Now, if we talk about the distribution of base pressure, so basically foundation or any foundation rests on the soil, and soil offers reaction against the vertical or external load which is on the foundation. So this variation of the reaction is different for different types of soil. For example, if the footing is resting on the for example, if the footing is resting on the sandy soil, so in that case you can see the pressure intensity is higher at the uh, at just below the load, and it is lower at the edges. Well, it happens because this is sandy soil, and sandy soil is basically the loose soil. So when load comes like this, so what happens is from the edges, sand tries to displace, and because of this this pressure is less at the edges, while the sand below this footing, it is in the confinement, and therefore it has high, I mean, it is under more pressure. Similarly, if we rest the foundation on the clay soil, then clay soil found pressure variation is different. And in this case, because this is a cohesive soil, so the pressure variation is just like a inverted bowl. So so that is why, as I said, that this pressure distribution for different type of soil is different. Now, if we design the foundation by considering this variation of the pressure, it is very complex and it is very difficult to design, and it involves a lot of calculation. So for the sake of simplicity, what we do is we assume pressure distribution as uniform, like in this case. Uh, Irrespective of the type of soil, we consider that the pressure offered by the soil against the external load, it will be uniform. And by considering this uniform pressure, we design the foundation. So as I said, for the convenience, a linear distribution of soil pressure is assumed in the normal design practice. Now we will see what are the various design considerations and IS code requirements for the foundation design. So basically, the foundation generally we design, it has, I mean, generally we consider two major consideration. One is the flexure. Flexure is basically the bending moment consideration. So foundation comes under the effect of bending because of the external load and also the shear force. And in this foundation, basically we have two types of shear force which generally encounters in this footing. So those shear force are of two types. One is the one-way shear force and the second one is the two-way shear force, and also the bearing and bond. So the major consideration for the foundation design is the bending moment consideration and the shear force considerations. Now, basically, the design of foundation is similar to the design of beam and two-way slab. So generally, we use all the design process that we generally follow in the beam and two-way slab design. So we will see when we will design the foundation, then there we will follow all those process like we have followed in the previous design of elements. So beside these three considerations, there are some other considerations also that we generally consider in uh, in the foundation in some special cases. For example, the transfer of force is also a very important criteria that we generally consider in the design. Similarly, if the foundation is subjected to horizontal forces, then we consider other considerations also, like the safety against the sliding and overturning. So these are the special considerations that we generally consider in our design of foundation. Now, the first major consideration in the IS code is the minimum nominal cover. What should be the minimum clear cover in the foundation? So this is specifically mentioned in the IS code at this clause. So basically, generally for having an idea of the clear cover, generally clear cover is calculated, or clear cover is taken based on the exposure condition for the superstructures elements. And generally we follow the table 16 for having the values of clear cover. But for foundation, IS code has specifically mentioned the clear cover for the foundation, so that we will see. So as I said, this clear cover for the foundation is generally higher than the cover for the superstructure elements, because foundation is directly in the contact with the soil, and soil may have some harmful chemical which may affect the, or which may react with the concrete, and thereby it may damage the foundation. So therefore, to have more protection, we have more clear cover, we take more clear cover for the foundation. Now IS code has recommended the minimum clear cover for foundation as 50 mm. But generally in the normal practice, we take clear cover as 75 mm. Then the next consideration is the minimum thickness at the edge of the foundation. So for example, if we have this footing, so what is this thickness? So IS codes has recommended a minimum thickness for the footing. So basically we know that this thickness is calculated based on the two main criteria. One is the bending moment and the second one is the shear force criteria. So basically this footing thickness is calculated based on the shear criteria and the flexural criteria. And now if we calculate the thickness based on these two criteria, that also is being checked against the minimum thickness recommended by the IS code. And we also know that when we calculate the thickness based on shear and bending moment criteria, generally in the foundation, shear force is very high. And therefore, most of the time, the thickness of the foundation is governed by the shear force criteria. Now, except in the case of small footing, it is economical to vary the thickness. Yes, we provide sloped footing also, uh, which is dependent on the variation of the bending moment. Now here we are talking about the minimum thickness as per IS code recommendations. So IS code has recommended in these two clauses about the minimum thickness. Now minimum thickness at the edge of the reinforced and plain concrete footing shall be at least 150 mm. So as per IS code, minimum thickness of the foundation should be at least 150 mm at the edge of the footing. And in case if we are designing the pile caps, so in case of pile caps, minimum thickness of the pile cap should be 300 mm. It should not be less than 300 mm. So by chance, if we calculate the thickness based on shear force criteria or bending moment criteria, and if we get the thickness, calculated thickness less than 150 mm, so in that case, what we will do is we will extend or we will take that thickness equivalent to 150 because the thickness of foundation cannot be less than 150 mm. Now, talking about the major consideration that we generally consider in our design, and that is design of foundation for the shear. So here in this criteria, generally we check this shear force for the calculated value of the depth. So by chance, if for example, if we calculate the bending moment, calculate the bending moment in the foundation, and if we calculate the depth by the foundation, so we will check that depth against the one-way shear and as well as the two-way shear. So as I said, shear force in the foundation comes under two category. One is the one-way shear and the second one is the two-way shear. So first we will talk about the one-way shear. Well, as I said earlier also that the thickness of the footing is in most of the time is governed by the shear force. And generally, bending moment is not the governing factor in this foundation design, which we generally see in case of beam and slab elements, that bending moment is the governing factor. But in the foundation, shear force is actually the governing factor. Now, both one-way shear and two-way shear are generally considered in the foundation design. But if we are designing foundation for the wall, or if we are designing foundation, if we are designing combined foundation, combined footing, so in that case, two-way shear will not encounter in this case, and therefore we consider only one-way shear, one-way shear in case of foundation, in case of wall foundation design, and in case of combined footing design. So this one-way and two-way shear is considered only in case of square column, or if we have the rectangular column. So in those cases, we can consider one-way and two-way shear both. Now, if we talk about the shear force critical section, because in the foundation, when it is subjected to external load, then soil will offer reaction against that. Now, in this scenario, where will the maximum shear force occur? At what section shear force will occur? That is very important. So as per IS code recommendation, the critical section for one-way shear is taken uh, at a distance d from the face of the column. Now we will try to understand this with the help of this diagram. In this case, you see this is a column which is subjected to vertical load, and against this column soil is offering reactions like this. Now in this case, where the foundation will have maximum shear force, so IS code recommends that shear force will be maximum at a d distance from the face of the column, which means at this point first crack in the foundation will occur because of the shear force. So uh, that point will be critical in the foundation, which will have the first crack. So as per IS code, first crack will occur at d distance from the foundation here. So therefore you can see this shaded part can be considered for the shear criteria, and this is known as the critical section for one-way shear. So this one-way shear can happen at this location along this face of the column. Similarly, if we consider this face of the column, then this critical section can be along this line, which will again be at distance d. Similarly, if we consider this face of the column, then from this face at d distance, this will be the critical section. Similarly, if we consider this face, then at d distance, this will be the critical section. So if it is a square column, then we can consider any one face of the column to calculate the maximum shear force. In case if we have rectangular footing, if we have rectangular column, so in that case we calculate shear force along two faces. One is the shorter face and the second one is along the longer face. So if we consider shorter face, this face is also considered. So shear force at this face and this face will be same. Similarly, shear force at this face and this face will be same. So this is how we calculate the one-way shear, or where we find the one-way shear for in case of the foundation. Now talking about the second type of shear, which is called the two-way shear. This two-way shear is also known as punching shear. And this punching shear occurs when the load is very high and the thickness of foundation is less. So in that case, what happens is column punch through the foundation. So this punching occurs because of the insufficient depth of the footing. And generally, the critical section for two-way shear is taken as at a distance of d by 2 from the periphery of the column. So first we will try to understand this punching shear. In this figure, you can see this is the column load. And if this column load is very heavy, very higher, and if this thickness is insufficient, then what will happen? The column will punch through the foundation. And in the process of punching, it will also take some part of the foundation along with it. So first crack, where the first crack will occur because of the punching. So first crack is occurring at this point and at this point. So this point where the first crack is occurring, this is at a distance of d by 2. Similarly, this also, it is at d by 2. And because punching is occurring, this cone is known as truncated cone. We will see this in the 3D form also. Here you can see punching is occurring all over four sides, and this distance is basically the d by 2. So therefore, in this case, the critical section is along the periphery of the column and at d by 2 distance. So you can see here in this plan, this is this square along the periphery of the column is the critical section. So maximum shear force in case of punching shear will occur at the periphery of the column, and periphery is at d by 2 distance. So this is the second type of shear in which the column may punch. So This is the most critical criteria in this foundation design, and most of the time punching shear is the governing factor of the thickness of the foundation. So most of the time the thickness of foundation is governed by this punching shear. Now talking about the next criteria, which is again a very important criteria, which is flexure. And flexure is basically bending moment consideration. So now if we consider the bending moment in the foundation, we will try to see how foundation can fail because of the bending moment. So in the design of foundation, it is also necessary to compute the bending moment at several sections of the footing, depending on the type of footing, whether it is a square footing or rectangular footing, and also what is the nature of load and what is the distribution of the pressure. So there are various criteria on which this bending moment it depends. And if we want to see how this bending will fail the foundation, so that we can understand with the help of this diagram. So if this is the foundation of the column, which is subjected to external load, say P, and because of this P, foundation is, soil is offering some reaction. Now, as you can see, this part and this part, they will be behaving like a cantilever. So you can see here the failure pattern of this foundation, and where is the biggest crack, at what point first crack will occur because of this bending. So that point will be known as the critical section for the uh, bending criteria in this scenario. So here you can see this is the larger crack, which means this will be the first crack because of this external force. And you can see this crack is exactly along the face of the column. So which means the critical section for foundation will be this face of, which is along the face of this column. Similarly, here also critical section is along the face of the column. So we have conducted various tests, and based on those tests, we determine which one is the critical section for the bending moment in the foundation. So based on extensive test, it has been determined that the footing based slab may be designed against the flexure by considering the bending moment at critical section. And that critical section is different for different type of foundation. For example, if we have the column, if we are designing foundation for the column or pedestal, or if we are designing foundation for the RCC wall. So in these three scenarios, the critical section for the bending moment will be along the face of the column. So this can be a wall, this can be a column. So in both the case, the critical section for the bending will be along the face of the column. Similarly, if we consider this face, then this can also be the critical section. If we consider this face, this can also be the critical section. So the point is bending moment will be maximum at the section passing along the face of the column. So if we have the square column, so in that case, we can consider only one face, because all three faces will have the same magnitude of the bending moment. So in that case, we can consider only one face. And if we have the rectangular column, so in that case, we consider the two faces. One is the shorter face and the second one is the longer face. And similarly, if we have the wall, say if it is a wall, if this is a wall, RCC wall foundation, so in that case also, the critical section will be along the face of the wall. So along the face of the wall will have the maximum bending moment. Similarly, if we have the stepped footing, which means if we have this pedestal, so in that scenario, the maximum bending moment will occur at the face of the pedestal, which means maximum bending moment will be at this point. Similarly, here also it will be at this point, which is in the plan also. You can see this is the critical section for the column having pedestals. Now, till now we have talked about the column, RCC wall and the pedestal. Now, in case if we are designing foundation for the masonry wall, so as per experimental study, In case of masonry wall resting on the RCC footing, maximum bending moment will occur at halfway between the face and center line of the wall for the footing supporting masonry wall. So we will see this with the help of this diagram. So here you can see, if this is the brick wall resting on the RCC foundation, so in that scenario, maximum bending moment will occur between the center line of the wall and the face of the wall, which means this is the critical section for the bending moment for the masonry wall resting on the RCC footing. So that is what we have to remember in case of masonry wall design, masonry wall foundation design. So now we will consider talking about the another consideration, that is the reinforcement in the foundation. How do we place reinforcement in the foundation for bending moment? Obviously, reinforcement is provided for resisting the bending moment in the foundation. So generally we provide one-way reinforcement in case of wall foundation. So for example, if we have the wall foundation, something like this, say if this is the wall foundation, so in that scenario we provide reinforcement along the shorter span, and along the length of the wall, the reinforcement that we provide, they are actually the distribution reinforcement. So therefore, in this scenario, we provide main reinforcement along the shorter span, and that is why this is called the one-way reinforced footing. This is called the one-way reinforced footing. And this reinforcement is calculated based on the bending moment calculation at the critical section. Now, as I said, in the perpendicular direction, we provide, these are the distribution reinforcement. We provide distribution reinforcement along the longer side. Now, if we are designing foundation for the column, say if we are designing foundation for the column, say for the square column, something like this. So in that scenario, we provide reinforcement along this face also and along this face also. And in that scenario, both the reinforcement are the main reinforcement. And therefore, these reinforcement are called the two-way reinforced footing. These foundations are known as two-way reinforced footing. So this is the case of square footing. Now, how do we place reinforcement in case of rectangular footing? As I said, in two-way reinforced square footings, flexural reinforcement may be placed at uniform spacing in both the direction, and therefore it is known as two-way reinforced footing. Now, in case of rectangular footing, in case of two-way rectangular footing, now reinforcement along the longer span and shorter span, we have to distribute reinforcement such that it has a central band, like in this case. You can see this is a rectangular footing, and in this rectangular footing we choose a central band, which means this section. In this rectangle also, we know that this rectangular section will be highly critical, which means maximum pressure will be borne by this central band, and therefore the maximum concentration of the reinforcement should be along this square band only. So therefore, reinforcement along the longer span is divided into two categories. One is the reinforcement in this square band and the reinforcement in these two edges. So how do we find out reinforcement in the square band? That can be calculated by using this formula. Area of steel in the shorter span multiplied by 2 by beta plus 1. So we will see this in more detail here. So here, if we want to provide, here you can see also that these dots are more spaced in this edge and in this edge, while these reinforcement have less spacing in the central band, because we want more concentration in the central band in this scenario. So this is generally we do in case of rectangular foundation design. So area of steel for this central band can be calculated by this formula, which means uh, area of steel in the shorter span multiplied by 2 by beta plus 1. Now what is beta? Beta is the aspect ratio, which is if this is the longer side of the foundation and this is the shorter side of the foundation, so L by B is known as beta. So with the help of this formula, we can calculate the reinforcement in the central band. And see, reinforcement along longer and AST along shorter, we can already calculate. After calculating it, we will be doing this distribution of longer reinforcement along the two stretches. One is in the central band and the second one in these edges. So first we calculate the reinforcement in the central band by using this formula. And once we get the reinforcement in the central band, we will deduct this from AST longer span, and the remaining area of steel will be distributed in these edges. Okay. So this is what I have written. This reinforcement is to be uniformly distributed within the central band, width equal to width B, and the remainder of the reinforcement distributed uniformly in the outer portion of the footing, which means in these two portions. So this is how we distribute the reinforcement. So that was the theoretical aspect of the foundation design. In the next part, we will design an isolated footing. Thank you.